Welcome to the World Builders Anvil, episode 315, the Anvil's favorite character tropes. And by Anvil, I mean me.
Hey!
Don't know where to start building your fantasy world?
Do you need more? Does it make sense?
Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination.
This is the place where we will prime your mind.
Now, it's time to heat up the forge.
Break out the mithril ingots and hammer.
Welcome to the World Builders Anvil. I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Miller.
Let's sup from the mug of Java and build.
Welcome back. Anviling as always, my name is Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And lovingly yours, because today is Valentine's Day. I am Michael Miller.
It's for all those people out there, you've already had your Valentine's Day, but right now Michael and I are having ours, and we thought, what a better way to spend it than together.
With each other?
Yeah, I know. Huh?
I don't know how that happens. Today's one of those weird days. Valentine's Day fell on a Friday this year, and I normally am working, like my hours are crazy these days, but I worked a short day today. So I was able to get home early and record with Jeff. So that's a very impromptu episode.
And hopefully we'll be done by 4, or you will hear my execution live in a recorded way.
I mean, look, that's not up to me.
No, it's not. 3:59, it's like, okay, bye, click. All right. So today we're going to talk about character tropes. This is one of our favorite topics. We love characters.
We love tropes.
Love characters and tropes.
I love that you made this trope list and you did not consult me at all.
No, and they're all right, though, aren't they? You could think of nothing else.
I can probably think of one or two others, and I'll interject them as we go.
And in terms of me, you got like 700 years of notice for this episode. So.
Yeah, I got literally no notice.
Actually, if you check your email, it was sent to you over a week ago.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Well, I can never. The email's tough right now because I'm getting inundated with job offers. So.
Yeah. I got your job offer. Okay, folks. So on to tropes.
I got a job you can do.
Why are character tropes important? First of all, once again, this is okay, Michael.
I know. Character tropes are important because there are so many things that fall into familiar lexicon. These are things that we all can gravitate towards. There's a reason they become tropes because they're familiar. Because we empathize, we sympathize with these types of characters. We see ourselves, or hate them. But please, we either see ourselves in them or we identify with them in some fashion. Whether that's I hate that guy, and I like hating that guy.
Yeah.
Or I love this guy. The underdog is a classic trope.
Yes,
and
classic trope.
Or the everyman, neither of which is on Jeff's list.
Nope. So neither one.
The everyman is easy because all of us can identify with the everyman. Mm-hmm. He's your average guy, in a not so average situation, and you could empathize with being that guy in that situation. The underdog, haven't we all felt that way at some point in our lives? And thus, they're tropes.
I like talking about tropes because oftentimes they get a bad rap on the web or nets.
And they shouldn't.
This is a trope, and sometimes they just mean it's bad. Like it's something you shouldn't do, and maybe it's not a trope.
There's a way to use tropes that's not good, and I think when they bag on tropes, it's because they're like, this is tired, and you're treading over ground that's been tread before in exactly the same way. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it if you do it differently, and that's the point. Yeah,
but the thing to keep in mind is it's the pattern that's important, and you can mix them together. We'll talk a little bit about some of our best practices for tropes sort of at the end of this episode. The thing to keep in mind with tropes is the reason they work is why people get sick of them. It's because they're easy to stick with you. They are patterns your mind recognizes, which is great when you storytell. If you use a plot trope or you use actual character trope, people can identify with them and they'll start expecting certain things to happen. And if you don't follow them at all, then it's going to be a lot harder to explain to people to get them to understand what you mean. So there's a reason why, like Michael said, there's a reason why they're used. At least with people who are good at storytelling.
Joss Whedon is a genius with character tropes and story tropes, because he knows what we've all been growing up on and watching and paying attention to for the past, 40 years. And he takes those and serves them up to you and then turns them on their head. And he does it time and time and time again. That's why Buffy was so popular. That's why Firefly was so popular. That's why Angel was so popular, because you expect him to zig because you're familiar with this. You've seen this before. And then he zags and you're like, oh, it's something new. So
yeah, that's one of the things we often accuse, stories of being predictable when they follow the pattern too closely. So as a storyteller, it's your job to disrupt a little bit as you go through, but not too much, because what I like to do is go in the opposite way. Like you're building up the big evil guy and you build up the really nice good guy and you switch the roles halfway through the story, because you want to do it. I kind of like the idea of one, you can go in the completely opposite direction sometimes. Like he says, when you get to the zig, you end up zagging. You pull the crazy Ivan of moves. And
the crazy Ivan of moves.
Yeah, you got the quote.
Yeah, good reference. Yeah. I always wanted to do that.
I never had the real good reason to do it before, but it actually felt like it worked there. But now we're going to get...
What was the other one? The barn doors? Open the barn doors?
I don't remember. Yeah.
Remember when they scooped in the mule?
I don't know that. Yeah.
It's where they opened the cargo bay doors and then scooped up the mule.
I don't remember.
While in flight. It was like the barn doors. Something. Yeah. Barn doors was in the name of it. I know that much.
Okay.
For those of you that are confused with Jeff and I's small segue or not so segue, what do we call it when you tangent? For our small tangent there, those are all Firefly references.
Well, actually, a Crazy Ivan is not only a Firefly reference, it is an actual real Earth reference that Firefly stole and used. Yeah, a Crazy Ivan.
What's a Crazy Ivan?
It is a submarine maneuver that was made famous by Russian submarinists during the Cold War.
I did not know this.
Because a lot of times the U.S. subs they'd follow in the wake of Russian sub to help hide their signal. And so occasionally the Russian submarine would just take really crazy turns. And so they would call it a Crazy Ivan because it was actually a maneuver to help find out what's in your wake, what's in your noise. So it's a super, super reference there. And all tie back to Joss Whedon beautifully, because that's the way the world should be. Unless it shouldn't be.
So what is your first trope here?
Okay, and this is not my favorite unless I'm playing video games.
I was just going to say, don't even, because I can shut that one down right now.
I actually only like this one if I'm playing video games. But most of the video games I play seem to have this as a thing, so maybe this is talking about my self-humility, but the Chosen One, basically every modern Bethesda game unfortunately goes with this, but it works. It makes you feel really good while you're playing the game, and everyone knows and loves you because you're saving the world. The villains are afraid of you and maybe attack you blindness and wastefully. I'd even argue like the later Fallout, like Bethesda Fallout, Lone Wanderers are still chosen ones. They just happen to be in a wasteland now. If
you're a fan of old school JRPGs or Final Fantasy in any way, you're familiar with every Suikoden game. If you're familiar, then you're familiar with the Chosen One. The Chosen One,
it's like a non-religious savior.
I was about to say it's the Chosen One is Jesus. It's Neo. The Highlander, any one of these characters where there can be only one. Like
one warning here, I'm using very high level tropes. There are very specific versions of all of these, so there could be twists put on them, and there's a site called TV Tropes, and I'll try and remember to link it in the episode show notes. If you go to guardduel.com, look at episode 315, it should be in a link to it. And if you just search TV Tropes, it's a very well SEO'd site, so it will come up. Even if you just search for character tropes or any kind of tropes, the site comes up really well, because that's what this site talks about. And they have great content, so go check them out.
I'm a big fan of the Chosen One for video games as well.
Yeah.
For movies, I'm okay with the Chosen One if it's done in a way that I really root. Like The Matrix is awesome. Like we love Neo. This is a great Chosen One story. They even call him the Chosen One in the movie. I think in the second movie, they straight up call him the Chosen One.
And really, if you watch this movie, if you don't see the similarities to the Gospels, you're not paying attention. Just pointing that out too. But
and there's tons of religious references throughout all three movies. There's certainly movies that have done it poorly. I could think of a couple, but I'm not going to get into
it's not worth it. I mean, that could be a very long list of where the Chosen One. I think where it becomes wrong is where it's one. The Chosen One isn't earned. It's like you just kind of start off as Superman. Max powered Superman. It for me, it doesn't work that way. Like Neo struggled to open up his Chosen One.
Well, at that point, we're talking about the Chosen One falling over into a story trope, which is the hero's journey, and which we're a fan of that.
Yeah. So luckily, he died and he came back again, and so he could save everyone. All right.
So give me another one.
Okay. The next one is the Mentor.
Speaking of the Matrix, would you call Morpheus?
Yes, Morpheus is a mentor.
All right.
Usually they're wizard characters. Historically, Gandalf.
You mean like
historically
old play?
Yeah, I mean it's sort of Merlin. It's derived from the Odin wanderer archetype, which is essentially it's the wizened old man who mentors the character.
I believe
in the hero's
it's pronounced
journey.
wizened.
Wizened. I don't do that to people. But essentially, it's the person who helps the hero in the hero's journey, and it's knows way too much. Sort of has meta information typically. And this has been done, and I loved it so much. I can't tell you the number of mentors, but I mean, it doesn't have to be like that too. It could be the coach in the football movie. It's the older character sometimes just giving advice, and you could do it in a strange way sometimes, where you have a young kid who has a tendency to hit the nail on the head in conversations with older people, and you see that less common, but that comes around too. But I like it. And basically, I believe I think mentors are something you should have in your life.
I mean, Mr. Miyagi.
And in your fiction. Mr. Miyagi, Yoda. I mean,
Yoda, perfect.
The list goes on. Baby Yoda, I guess, doesn't fall into that category.
I still haven't
maybe
seen.
The Mandalorian does. I've not seen it, though, so I can't tell you if
I haven't watched any of that
he's
yet.
wise at all. So, I don't have
that
Disney
service,
Plus.
me either.
Yeah. We're losers here. So we had Huffies. What can we say? Okay.
We had Huffies. Jeff and I were just talking about this the other. Dude, I loved my Huffy.
I loved my Huffy too. I was a Huffy kid. And
me
those mongoose kids, you better stay in your yard. I'm getting old now. I'm saying sorry, talk like old people. Okay. Now the next one is our favorite for both of us. And Michael might lie and say something else.
I love this one. I don't know if it's my top, but it's do love it.
It's your top.
So my first choice though, just to reference it, is I'm gonna go with Spaceballs.
Okay.
So the lovable rogue.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be Han Solo. Although would he be lovable?
Yes.
We do love him.
But he's the quintessential lovable rogue, right?
He's
the scruffy guy who charms the pants off of Leia. Yes.
No,
and he kind of. And I'd argue
him.
Captain Mal really. Is
absolutely. Mal is absolutely.
He was not intended. I think he was intended to be an anti-hero. But I think
originally, yes.
I think the Fox turned him. They don't want him quite that dark, so they made him a lovable rogue instead.
If you watch the movie, there's a few distinct differences in the character from the movie and the show, and the movie is what Joss Whedon originally intended. So there's a couple of things in the movie that straight up contradict the show.
And actually, if you see the beginning too, the pilot has a darker edge to it than the rest of the series, or the little bit of the series that's left. But
that's why we lost.
Yeah. The kick scene, I believe, was in that episode too.
The kick scene?
The bad guy who is no longer of any use to them, and so he gives me a kick.
That was in the train episode. Was that the first episode?
I thought that was the first episode. I could be wrong.
I don't know if that was the first episode.
That was like for me the quintessential moment of the series.
It's one of my favorite moments in the series.
But that was
because I didn't see it because I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, because that's not what you were expecting.
I was not expecting it. I thought that character was going to be with us for a season, chasing him down because he was like, "That's what I'm going to do." And he's like, "Yeah, no, you're not going to do that." Listen, this is Niska's money.
This is why Firefly was so good because people get kicked into engines.
No, but you were saying something that got me off the subject, and I wanted to get back to it. What was
Lovable Rogue?
Lovable Rogue.
We were talking about Han Solo, and you were trying to argue he was not because you're drunk and you've had too much liquor and you don't know what you're saying. So you can continue.
I have had a couple drinks. No, I'm not going to say that Han Solo is not lovable, but I am. This is what I'm going to say. He's lovable to the audience. He's not necessarily lovable to the other characters. He's likable and tolerable and becomes lovable, but I think that's just based on time and proximity.
Whatever.
We love him as a character. I don't know if that's quite the same thing. Whereas Mal is lovable. Like, he's a nice guy. We like Mal. He does some rotten things, but we
completely unlike Han Solo, does rotten things but does good things.
But
we love him.
Han Solo does rotten things, and it, like when he shoots Greedo first. Thank you. When he shoots Greedo, and Greedo never has a chance to fire whatsoever, doesn't even think about it. He seems like in the original delivery of that sequence a rotten character, and that he's bloodthirsty. And actually, that's not the right word. I've seen him described that way in articles, and I'm like,
no, I wouldn't call him
bloodthirsty. Right. Yeah. I think it's just like he wants to live. He just wants to win.
Yes,
so
his desire, his survival.
Exactly, it's a survival instinct. He's like, you know what? I'll play dirty to win.
He knows what's going to happen.
You know what? In that scene, he's Jane. He's like, I'll kill a man in a fair fight, or if I think he's going to start one.
But you don't think Mal would have shot first? You don't think Mal would have shot first?
No. Mal would not have shot first.
The lovable rogue would shoot first. That's why they're a rogue.
There's only one reason you can argue that I'm wrong, and that's, again, in the movie. Because in the movie, he does shoot first. He's like, I'm unarmed. And he's like, good. And he immediately shoots the guy who's unarmed. And he's like, I am, however, wearing full body armor. I'm not a moron. But in the television show, he says, Simon says to him, well, how can I trust that you won't just kill me in our sleep and throw us out an airlock? And he's like, look, kid, if I ever kill you, it'll be in a fair fight and you'll be armed. Mm-hmm. Now, that is a distinctly different characterization than what they portray.
Greedo was armed and going to kill him.
We're not making the comparison right this second. We're not making
You have to make a comparison.
In a moment, we will. What I'm pointing out is that we're comparing Mal to Mal. And the Mal in the movie is not the same as the Mal in the show.
I agree.
Fair enough. So which Mal do you want to say is the lovable Mal? I will say the show, not the movie.
I would say the show, not the movie. But I also say...
So the one who kills the unarmed guy or shoots the unarmed guy, that's...
Guido was not an unarmed guy, so it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. He was armed.
You're the one who wanted to make the comparison. I didn't.
Because you're wrong. Once again, you just can't help yourself. It's okay. So we're going to move on. So Michael stops embarrassing himself in front of everyone in the internet, which is probably like 20 people, but whatever. Okay. Now the next important one.
The next one is Elders.
Yeah. And this is where Michael should listen to his Elders.
See the Dark Crystal.
Yeah. This is one. There are so many variations of Elders I love. My favorite is actually is Crash the Old Men.
That kind of there's a little overlap here between Elders and Mentors, so we got to be careful.
It is, but to me, Elders, they're just the old guys. They don't necessarily know anything better. Like for me, Grumpy Old Men is a great example of Elders.
The movie Grumpy Old Men.
Yes.
Okay.
And now Elders could be a mentor. I agree with you there.
I'm talking about...
I don't consider a mentor an Eldor. It doesn't have to be. And this is one that has a lot of different deviations where you can go with it. But like for me, and we saw this actually in the Wine Steward campaign. I believe it was a Wine Steward campaign. There were two village elders who he kept interacting with, and they were sort of crotchety old guys. I don't remember how much he actually interacted with them, though.
Yeah, we're way overdue for a campaign. We got to get back to a campaign.
We got to get back to a campaign.
I'm reminded of the 3 old men in Cowboy Bebop.
Oh yes, perfect example. Yeah, and that's my thing. And they don't necessarily have to be crotchety, but they should be in my taste.
We dug that ditch. We sure did.
That's right. But they're the old people who are sitting there. They know something because of experience, but they don't necessarily know things that they shouldn't. Which to me is kind of mentors start breaking into that realm where it's magical or close enough. But yes, elders. I love elders. Like I said, like grumpy old men to me, perfect example. Not wise elders in that case, but definitely elders who wanted the respect of being an elder. And now my favorite as a world builder, this is probably actually my favorite one as a world builder, is the fish out of water.
Big fan.
And the character itself could have any kind of implant, but I like it when you take a character who does not belong and you force them into a new scene, because it gives you an excuse to talk about the world building that you normally would be forced to ignore because it's meaningless to the characters,
I'm going to go with Ash from Army of Darkness.
Ash from Army of Darkness. Yes, there's a great example there. Fish out of water. McCloud, if you like to watch old cowboy detective shows. And they're coming back with the new McCloud. I forget what they're calling it.
I'm sorry, McCloud?
McCloud. It was like a 70s detective show.
I'm not familiar with this one.
I don't remember who played the part. And this was like big time network television, which is all there was back then. I don't know the name of the actor, but essentially he was a Texas cowboy, maybe even a Texas Ranger. I don't know, but and not from Dallas, from Billy Joe's small town in West Texas, who got sent to New York City and ends up becoming like a collaborator with the NYPD. And he's a copper. He's kind of there, like, I don't know if it's like an exchange program. I don't really know the setup, but I was young when the show was on. But it was literally just a big buckle cowboy rodeo loving guy in New York City. Basically at the height of where people thought New York was just a bunch of arrogant brats, which was sort of the view of it probably in the 70s and early 80s. I don't think it's so much there anymore, the people's attitude towards it. I think New York City's been somewhat rehabilitated, or maybe I've just lived too close to it now and I'm an arrogant prat. I don't know. Make sure to hit me up on social and let me know if you think I'm an arrogant prat.
I mean, I think New York has been seriously, like, I don't know if I want to go so far as to say neutered, but certainly sanitized.
Oh, you think so?
Oh my God. Have you been to New York lately?
Not really super recently. I mean, or I've been for like an activity, but not any real time in New York, probably since my anniversary. So my God, it's been like 20 years almost.
I would have to do the math. I think the very first time I went to New York and was able to, walk around, by myself. Let's see, it was with Greg and Tommy. So it would have.
Did Tommy go with you guys too down there, or
no? What do you mean, like move or?
Yeah. It was just you and Greg, right?
No, but he visited it a couple times. But we went to New York one year, and we stayed at a hotel somewhere near Times Square, and it was me and Tommy and Greg and one other person. I'm inclined to say it was my friend John, but I don't think it was him. Like, I think it was maybe Jim or someone else. But this was when, I mean, it would have been like 97, 98 if I had to guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
New York was still like Times Square. Giuliani hadn't cleaned up Times Square yet. There were still peep shows in Times Square. It was dirty. It was sketchy. I mean, it wasn't like 70s Times Square.
You weren't expecting to get mugged in Times Square, but
well, I mean,
maybe, huh?
Yeah, seriously, we were.
They'll get pulled down an alley essentially.
No, well, there's no alleys in Times Square. So.
Theoretical alleys.
My point is that it was still dirty and sketchy looking in Times Square, whereas now. I was in New York quite recently, and there is areas of Broadway throughout Times Square. Some of the, like, you can't drive down Broadway anymore through Times Square. It's all set up that you can use the cross streets, so you can cross through Times Square, but you can't drive down Broadway. It's
really
you can.
wow.
It's a walking way, so people just are walking in the street all over the place. There's like cafe benches and seating all over the place, but you can't drive down Broadway from like somewhere around, I guess, 47th, 48th through down to like, I guess it would be around
through the Times
40th,
Square area,
around 40th, somewhere around there. You can just walk straight up Broadway as long as the lights are red for the cross streets. It's I'm like, this is not the Broadway that I remember. Broadway was busy. I mean, it was crazy.
It's one of those places I typically didn't want to drive. Usually, I never lived there, so I would just kind of drive down, the cross and then come down the West Side Highway usually to get into Manhattan.
And all the all the filthy porn shops and peep show places are all gone. So it's
they
all
have those.
Oh my God, tons of them. It's like
I had no idea.
And now it's all like McDonald's and restaurants and shows and things to do. It's very sanitized. It's like it's like a mall. It's like an exaggerated mall.
Yeah. Well, I know Giuliani kind of cleaned up that part, but like getting the part where there's like no traffic in there, that just would feel weird.
No, there's still traffic. It's still
but I mean like loads of traffic, and you're walking across Broadway, and you better know when to go.
You can stand in the middle of Broadway, in the middle of Times Square, and have no fear of a car coming by, because on that part of the block, cars cannot drive anymore.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. All right. Now, moving back to Fish of Water. Thank you, McLeod, for bringing us back to New York City. But do go for the culture and shows. Go get your day of tickets. You can get really good deals sometimes.
Oh, definitely.
Don't have a plan. Just go find out what's a good price. And there's always a good
plan.
Show.
Also have a plan.
Yeah, have a plan, or else you're going to end up somewhere really sketchy. Let's see. Now, I want to get into a couple things here about using tropes. There's a couple things you can do, and to me, it's kind of a spectrum of, do you have a pure protagonist or do you have an ensemble? And I very much more lean towards an ensemble type of thing, where I don't really like stories that are all about a person. They might focus on a person. You might have a protagonist. But
isn't your novel about a person?
No, that's the beauty of it. There's really 3 characters it's about. But the first book was largely about the one person, and it introduces, then takes away one of the characters, and then introduces the other character, and then in the second book, it's about all 3 of them, and the trilogy is really about all 3 of them. And the person you'd think it's about, after the first book, it becomes less and less about that character. Or after this trilogy, if I do any stories, it will be not about him at all, because he's essentially too powerful to care about at that point. But the first one is definitely about this one character. It introduces the other ones, but that's not my like preference storytelling, or there's a use to it, obviously. And I do like protagonist, but I like to have, even if there's a protagonist, I don't like it to be really about the one person. There has to be lots of side characters and stuff to keep it interesting for me. The question is, if it's a protagonist, it's more wrapped around them. If it's an ensemble, it's really about all of their comings and goings. And personally, when I partake in media, I really kind of prefer ensemble stuff, usually over the stuff that's like, purely has a pure protagonist to it, like most action movies and stuff like that. Even though I have nothing against action movies, but
action.
Give me 12 Angry Men over the Predator.
I'll take the Predator.
Actually, the Predator had a pretty good ensemble cast. But the Predator, I love the Predator too. Don't get me wrong. So I typically lean towards stories that are about multiple people and multiple people's motivations. I find it more interesting. And are you more of an ensemble or more of a pure protagonist?
I don't know that I prefer one specifically over the
kind of
other.
depends
I've
on
seen
the
so many
story.
great
Yeah.
examples of both.
Both, yeah, there really
I
is.
do love a good ensemble.
Mhm. Like I said, a classic one in recent memory, Star Wars, right? You know, I mean, Luke was sort of the protagonist, but
Star
Leia
what now?
and Han,
Star what? Star what now?
Star Wars.
Luke who?
Listen, I'm waiting for the special edition before I watch this new trilogy. I'm hoping Lucas can save it. So the sad thing is, I haven't seen the last movie yet.
I still haven't seen the last movie. What are you
haven't
doing?
either?
What are you doing this weekend? We should go see it together. Does Kristen want to see it?
Figure it out. Yeah, probably, but it's about babysitting, right?
No, Sarah doesn't want to see it.
Yeah, no, we'll get together. We'll go. Is it still out? I hope.
Last I checked, it was, but I last checked like 2 weeks ago, so it might not.
We'll have to figure something out because we're trying to come up with something where we have time to do stuff like that again. So
I wonder if we could con Sarah into watching your child and the three of us go see it.
Works for me.
Ooh,
we can always double off from my nephew's girlfriend right there. Does she like kids? I guess he's a lovable kid though, so he is my personality.
Oh, what's not to love?
Lovable, childlike. He might mature past me, but that's all
right. Let's bring this in. What else have we got here? The last one you have here is hybrid versus true trope. So what is a hybrid? What is a hybrid?
So for me, a hybrid is sort of like, but I like true trope better. That was actually better. So we're gonna stick with true trope. Hybrid to me is like where you have a character who, like Mal, you could say is a lovable rogue in the show. Mm-hmm. He has some other aspects to him that are different types of actual tropes, and that's I think how you successfully deal with tropes.
I mean, I would certainly call him a tragic hero, which is another trope we're not talking about, but yeah, definitely,
and another very good one. If you like tragedies, I guess. But you know, I think a lot of more sophisticated modern characters, it's like they have the overall thing of, let's say, you know, like he's a lovable rogue, but then maybe he is a grizzled veteran, or there's some other attributes.
Oh, grizzled veteran! I forgot about that. That's a great one. Big fan.
You know, but you get sort of take from these different things and you present it as one way, but then the other traits poke out once in a while, and it's a way of adding flesh. But then people still have things that they're pattern-wise their brains can latch onto, and so I kind of like doing that with my characters, where they have, unless it's intentionally not like William in the book I've been writing, he's meant to be a pure trope, and which is why I don't like him. You know, and the reason why, like, the overall story arc does what it does is this kind of say characters to me like that become distant. The more of a true hero you become, the more distant and the crosshairs your friends get caught. So ultimately, the story is more about his friends than it is about him. You know, it's like, you know, you are Achilles' best friend. Have a good day. You know, you're the guy who Odysseus left behind to take care of his banner while he's gone. Oh, you're so screwed. You know, so it's
watch the boat.
It's kind of watch the boat. But you know, it's tough being next to that amazing hero sometimes. So I find that to be an interesting story. Just me, I'm a very patient storyteller, so I can write a whole book that is intentionally misleading people. Okay, but not at the same time. But yeah, for me, I kind of like the hybrid. To me, that's the way you solve the puzzle, is you find an overall way you want to take the character, and then you start taking in other types of tropes and making that, you know, blending them together to make an overall. To me, I think it just seems like a more sophisticated character than, you know, your pure, hi, I am Superman, you know, which is why I think it's tougher to do that kind of story today, because the audiences are a bit more sophisticated, but you can't just be like, well, make him brooding. You know, for an established character, it's really hard to do that. So
that would be Bad God.
Don't talk to me that way. But yeah, so there we go. Now, Michael?
So the world building task today, probably going to see this one coming. What are your favorite character tropes?
Yeah.
Maybe make a list. Maybe look at your own stories and say, you know what? I got tropes here that I might not have considered.
Yeah, because it's strange.
Tropes.
Like, if you're not trying to use tropes, you probably still are because you think in the same patterns. And it's just like your brain is going to take you there when you create stories, usually. And you might not be able to identify it, but spend some time, go through some of your favorite characters that you've made and figure out what their trope is. Go to TV tropes if you're not sure on tropes. There's a huge, extensive list. And they get a lot more specific over than what we said. But yeah, figure out what your favorite trope is. And now for the real world task, figure out what your trope is. Oh yeah, figure out what your trope is.
Now, what does that mean?
If you are,
trope you are?
Yeah, that's right. How would you be identified, Michael?
How would I be identified? How would I be identified, or how would I like to be identified?
Yeah, whatever. Go with your heart. What does your heart tell you? What? This is like one of those Facebook tests where if it doesn't work, you just repress it and it'll come up with a different result.
Well, how I'd like to be identified, I guess, would be some sort of like Luke Skywalker character.
Okay.
And Luke, I wouldn't say is the chosen one, although he ends up being by Jedi.
By Jedi standards, I guess. Yeah.
What would Luke be? The farm boy come hero character. I mean, certainly
that'd be the underdog, maybe.
Underdog. Okay, we call him underdog.
And he was a beautiful one too, because it's like if you watch the first Star Wars movie, he was just a putz, a whiny little boy who was in way over his freaking head. I mean, and Han and Leia were both much more advanced characters and dragged him with them. But by Jedi, he was the king.
Oh,
of the hill,
absolutely. You know? And what a lot of people don't realize is when he talks about,
it was the hero's journey. So he's technically the hero.
Absolutely. Right? What a lot of people don't realize is that when he talks about going to the academy next year, and like his friend Dax is already going to the academy, he's talking about the Empire.
Yeah.
Luke wanted to join the Empire. He didn't.
Any good person would.
Yeah.
The heroes of the story. Once again, darkened by the propagandist lies of those rebel scum.
So, I would like to be, I guess, tragic hero. I think
you would like to be a tragic hero.
I don't know. I like to be tragic. I don't know. I think that kind of fits.
You think there's a classiness to that?
Rooted, yeah, definitely a classiness to it.
It definitely had that.
I think if I had to trope myself, I'd probably be a comic relief character, honestly, which I hate to admit. But like because we all want to be Mal, but or Jane. I would love to be Jane.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Yeah, for me, I am the wise elder. I am the guy that has the really long silver beard. If you come to beat me up, you have to know the sequence of precise punches to be able to even hurt me.
See, now I think you're.
I am the Chinese movie.
The kung
elder.
fu. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, see, I think you're the hacker guy that comes to help the hero. I think that's who you are.
I like the hacker psychic.
I don't know about psychic. Psychic maybe in a different genre, but you're like the hacker guy who the hero needs to come. Like the hero doesn't need to do it. The hero kicks ass, but they need to break into a place, and the hacker's like, "Oh well, I know how to do it. And here's how you do it."
Call Jeff Ingram. I need in the store.
Oh, this is Linux. I know Linux.
I do know Linux.
I know you know Linux. That's why I made the joke. I thought you'd appreciate that. And you remember in Jurassic Park, you're the little girl from Jurassic Park. That's what you.
I'm the little girl from Jurassic. I'll take that. She survived.
She did survive.
You're the lawyer, okay?
Yeah, I might be the
lawyer. It's better than being the fat guy, I guess.
No, he died.
I can't remember his name from Seinfeld.
The lawyer got eaten by the T-Rex, didn't he?
The lawyer was the guy who gets eaten on the
pooper.
Yeah. That was a classic scene. Classic movie. The only Jurassic Park movie. I wish they'd made more. It's too bad.
They never made any. It's
it's too bad.
All right. To be fair, the second one's not terrible.
The second one I enjoyed.
Yeah.
The third one was.
Didn't happen. You know what? I take it all back. I kind of liked the third one.
The third one was better than anything that they made sense.
Yeah.
That's not saying anything. Hi, we're going to introduce these characters. We're going to call them Plank 1 and Plank 2. One is a male Plank, and the other's a female Plank, and they are our heroes. Or stones. I guess we could go rock there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I would agree with that one.
Yeah. So very sad state of affairs. But yes, 3 is definitely better than those. But I don't really want to. Really, I need. Sometimes it just makes.
It's kind of like the same. It's the same thing with Predator. Like Predator is awesome.
Predator 2 was enjoyable. I liked it.
Predator 2 was tolerable.
It was enjoyable.
Tolerable is better. Rewatched it does not hold up well.
Maybe not. I haven't rewatched it. So
it should be Predator, and then I believe it's called The Predators or Predators, which is the one that's off planet with Adrian Brody. That one's really good because they basically were like,
they actually made a second one that was actually good. By that point, I think I'd give it up on anything with the word Predator in it. So
yeah, all the Aliens versus Predator. Skip that jazz. There was
good comic books.
There was one recently that had a couple of good scenes in it, and they really had the best of intentions, but the execution was
Predator.
Yeah, that one where they're like, it's a predator, but it's like 10 feet tall. It's like way bigger than other predators. It's a predator. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
like we're
not going to talk about that.
How do we make a predator even more predator? Just make it bigger.
I don't think you can say
bigger predator. It's a predator
about that one, though. You know,
look how big it is.
You're not supposed to be able to see it.
Most of that movie wasn't terrible. There were aspects of it that were really good. The idea of the double-sized predator was dumb, and the ending of it was terrible. The ending was absolutely
Predator dogs. I mean,
no.
I think you're being generous.
No, Predator Dogs was in the
one
that I liked. That was in the one that I liked. The Predator Dogs was on the off-planet one with Adrian Brody, which was
better than this one.
Yeah, big time.
Okay. All right. We hope you all had a great week. I hope you haven't considered us like annoying characters.
Go watch all the Predators and
tell us which ones you like.
Come tell us which trope you are.
And make sure in social to come and tell us how wrong we are about all of our arguments over movies and explain to us why you are right.
And by we,
that is the way.
We mean Jeff, not me, because I'm.
No, we mean both of us.
I mean, no.
Whoever's listening probably has better ideas.
Obviously, I'm right and Jeff is wrong, and
all right.
There needs to be other people that support this plan.
Yes, like 1999 is a end of a millennia. Okay, we'll see you all next time, and I'm going to go hack my way into next week.
Thank you so much for listening to the World Builders Anvil.
We would love it if you would share the World Builders Anvil with 2 of your friends.
And so would they.
If they are unfamiliar with podcasts, then you get to introduce them to the wonderful world of podcasting.
Take them to Stitcher or iTunes, or best of all, just send them to our website, www.gardul.com.
That's GARDUL.com.
Now strike while the myth rules hot.